All right, guys, this is going to be an interesting one. This is tradition v standards. Sorry, v false standards. So we'll go we'll go through the stages and we'll discuss it as we go along. So with false standards for men, this is to do with the environment we're in, because the reason it's important is because I think some of us forget that the way we were brought up is not the same way people are brought up today. And then you've got to factor in the rise of the feminism mix, the be a modern man nonsense, the amount of households without a father figure, the amount of households where the father's always at work, and well, even the mother. We've created an environment. Well, sorry, the environment has taken one thing, which is women want the choice to work, to now an environment where both parents need to work, so the kids' traditional paths have been broken. So we'll start off with the false standards for men, because a lot of this stuff that people are getting influenced by are, funny enough, influencers, social media, and stuff online. Hypermasculinity or zero emotion. The idea that real men don't cry, always need to be stoic providers. They have to be providers. My view is being stoic is not just a concept that you're reading or seeing on the side. There is more than one stoic, and a lot of the stuff that is promoted is passive. Be aware, not everything you're reading or seeing is all stoic. A lot of it is very niche, often about being passive and weak, but there's a lot more to it if you look into it. My view is, a men don't cry type thing is psychiatry and the well-being and all this stuff has all come about with the rise of women in business. Would you agree, disagree? Because it seems to be an evolution of something that's been pushed. Because we didn't need to have a well-being Wednesday up until recent years. So where did it come from? Is this to create imbalance? Because I do query it, because if you've got men becoming more like women, which is down the route of emotions, I would hazard a guess it's also closely related to more suicides, in my personal opinion. Because if, like a Gen X, you push all your pressures down because you've got to push on, because you've got family to look after, bills to pay, etc. That was the traditional man role, and I have no issue with that still going on. Because don't forget, what was weird is you go from being a stoic or a grounded male to suddenly being, you cry in this and you're weak, because this is feminism stuff. At the same time, being hyper masculine with zero emotions also is the complete opposite. This is a push out from the anti-feminism, etc. This is crazy. What you've got to do is find your balance. My view is, if you're having some really hard times, you go somewhere, you reflect. It may be a case of you drink a bottle of vodka or something crazy. I'm not condoning or telling people to do whatever, but sometimes when you just got to go and get drunk or something because something devastating's happened. But I always have this very little simple thing: is go to bed, and tomorrow's a new day, and that's it. So you can deal with that, whatever that pain is that day, and after tomorrow, it's gone. That was yesterday. It's past, and it doesn't matter how deep it cuts. I find that works. Um, Unfortunately, that's just life, guys. But they're trying to make out, oh, you need to be in touch with your feelings. Got to go to the therapist. Blah, blah. No. If therapy was so good, why do people have to keep going back? That's me. That's my thoughts anyway. Financial success equals worth. Men are often judged by their bank balance, status, or job title. Firstly, I want to state that as a man talking to other men, it's not something we talk about. You know, we may talk about new job roles, but it's not about I'm trying to get one over on a friend or whatever. It's down to the reality that you're just talking about. I'm looking at getting a new job. A lot of this stuff is coming from women. That's what women look for. So the key to a lot of this is doing what makes you happy, not what other people are telling you. So creating a good bank balance status or job title should be your driver, but it doesn't mean that equals worth or success. It just means that's what you're just doing. When you look at people like Andrew Tate or stuff, it's always oh, look at the Bugatti, look at this. That's a falsehood. That's from he's like the fallout of feminism. He's like a big look at me, I'm doing better than that. I don't need this. I don't need women. Look at me. That is like a woman's mentality in a man. It's weird. You know, owning a Bugatti in a simple context. When you get out of a Bugatti, people are not looking at you, they're looking at the car. It's false. And it doesn't mean they don't own a Bugatti. If you want one, have one. But it just means that people's thinking that's I've made it, I've got this. Yeah, good for you if that's what makes you happy. But I find it completely irrelevant because the perspective's wrong. Looks equal dominance. The six pack, the jawline, the height, the idea that without these you're less of a man. This is all the Instagram world, the social media, the standards being set by women that just don't make any sense because the numbers don't add up. And let's face it, if you had all that as a man, you're probably very difficult to get to settle down because your options are going to stay with you for a long time. So, for example, you could be pretty much dating the majority of women. So why would you settle down? And I think it was at the Prince of Monaco years ago, and I think it was he was on his yacht, and there was a documentary about him. And they're asking when he's going to get married, and he says, "Why would I get married when I can date any woman I want?" A multi-millionaire prince of Monaco. Why would I get married? I've got all these supermodels. Because I guess they all want to hang out with him because he lives in bloody Monaco. But that's the point. If you're in that sort of arena, your mentality is often different anyway. Because the guys I've spent a lot of time with, from childhood and whatever, that are physically focused, are often physically focused. They're not often the most conversational. They're not the most smartest person in the room. They're generally focused about football or rugby or whatever, because that's what they spend their life on. So when you try and blend these together, it often doesn't really gel because it's different traits all trying to come into one. And this is why when women are trying to do it, it's very hard to make it work because the guy you're after may not exist, or 90% of the time he's not even interested. Definitely not for a long-term relationship anyway. Sexual conquest equals masculinity. The notion that sleeping with many women is an achievement. I have to say, I don't even agree with this. This may be a modern thing. I don't even see that as for me, I don't even discuss that type of stuff. So I don't see how that would be an achievement. Anyway. The false standards for women. Have it all narrative. Careers, family, looks, social life, all perfect, often unachievable without burning out. Right. See, there's a woman's narrative in there already. because the fact is they're talking about trying to get everything to suit themselves, and at the same time it's pretty much unachievable unless you've got a home husband or something. Then you're just taking on the role of the man, because if you're going for a pinnacle career, I'm not talking about being an influencer and go, oh look at me, I've got my own business, yeah, I make marmalade or whatever. I'm talking about the reality that the high earners in most of these types of jobs are divorced, or they fall by the wayside. The women do too often, because they suddenly realise they're missing out on family life and the body clock's ticking. The only ones I know that haven't, that I work with, have all been lesbians. But at the same time, trying to put this into a normal life is near impossible these days. Even if you were going down that route, it doesn't work. The reality is somebody has to look after the family. So if you're not doing it, either your husband has to, or your kids are going to start going astray. It's very hard to get that balance. So I'd just say I wouldn't even try doing it. Instagram beauty myth: perfect skin, perfect body, eternal youth, all created online. A, it's a falsehood, but B, it's worse than that. Instagram, social media generally, is showing the best of everything. So you look at it, you go, they're on the beach, they're in beautiful restaurants, they're showing their best photos that they've got, they're manipulating the best photos they've got. It's all completely fake. They're not showing strongly paid for the holiday, I can't afford my first house, I live in a bad area, etc. They don't discuss any of that. It's all complete falsehood. So even going down these routes, I just wouldn't waste your time on it. Victim narrative weaponized. Some feminist narratives falsely promote that any issue is oppression, even when it's just personal accountability. See it all the time. The Me Too movement started off one thing, and then it just become, let's attack who we don't like, or I fell out with somebody, so let's attack them and make stuff up. And then you start getting into business where they're talking about being oppressed. I seen a woman the other day. She's got a cleaning firm, I believe, and she was on about the builders, and it's like, oh, it's all men in business. Knock, 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 knock. Firstly, she's supposed to be a business owner. Shoving that stuff on LinkedIn is not the best approach. Secondly, it's not all men in business. If you have a look at the stats, you've been gifted a lot of these jobs, and I do say gifted because they've manipulated the system to force women into these jobs the same way they've forced minorities into these jobs. And they're not talking about them becoming an engineer. No. You need to be a director. So you haven't gone through any of the formal stuff. You're not the best candidate, but we're going to give it to you anyway, simply because you're a woman. So there's a weaponization. It's all this diversity, equality. It's just nonsense, feminist garbage. Because there's no accountability of the outputs on there. Why? Well, let's face it. If, like the college course I'm doing, right, it's 92% BAME and women, right? 92, that's 8% is open to men. 8%. So they don't even list the men as that 8%. They list all the others except for the men. That shows you how these people work. Because that's accountability. Because when you're seeing, 8% men, why is there only 8% men? And then you got this narrative now, men ain't going into further education. Is that because the women get sponsored through a lot of it? Because it bloody well is. Traditionalism repackaged, influencers selling trad wives, aesthetics, while living a monetized influencer life, not actual traditional roles. What they're talking about is that's a subsidized lifestyle, because the falsehood is that they're living that life, but the cash generation on it is why they can live that life. I think that's what it's trying to mean with that, which is true, because the other thing with influencers is they're always grifting. So you probably notice on my channel, you'll see every now and again I'll do a mini video or something and do it as a review. I'm not overly promoting something unless it's a product I actually use myself. And even then, like I did with the vitamins, I just show you the bottles of vitamins. I didn't tell you what the brands are, didn't tell you where to buy them. I'm just going through what I buy myself. So a lot of stuff out there has a sales value, and as I tell you regularly, most of the stuff around us is consumerism gone mad. Last section, why tradition is still powerful but misunderstood. Tradition gives roots, values, roles and expectations, but needs to be adapted, not blindly followed or rejected. The danger is when people replace tradition with manufactured ideals, usually to sell something or push a product or control. That's reality. So let me take it from a bigger concept. So I think I've mentioned already, when there was like the rise of the feminism, one of the things was they wanted to be able to, women to have the option to work, and now they've created an environment where you've got two people in households working, which is damaging to the relationships, damaging to family life, and damaging to the economy. The economy is not growing in the UK, and we're not looking at more jobs being created, because quite simply I don't think there are in the UK. So what you've ended up with is probably a two household family working. It's helped subsidising people with nobody working, because they can't get a job because the other households have got two people working. Maybe completely wrong, but I'm just looking at it from a perspective of what I would think would be logical. So you've got that issue. You've got the fact that nobody's looking after a lot of these kids when they come home. You got the fact that a lot of people are on benefits, which means they see their parents not doing much. You know, the focus is on, oh, I'm poor, not the focus on the fact that your parents aren't achieving anything. So you then go down the route of creating a benefit class and a benefit system and a continuous generational failure. This is why I think a lot of the stuff we have is out of sync in the UK, because I don't agree with minimum wage. I think if you got rid of the minimum wage, and it's not a simple thing, but reshape the benefit system and reshape the housing system to the point that it led to the markets to restabilize to where they should be, because we're in an environment that A, is unsustainable, but B, it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't work for whether you're wealthy or poor, because the system's out of kink. You know, when your roads are out all broken up because of potholes, and you've got the education system is more focused on ideologies, and you just go through it and through it, and you're going, well, if you could have more work for a start, in the sense of you create an environment where people have got an achievement in their life. So it doesn't matter that you're not a computer genius or even literate. You could be the guy going around fixing the bloody potholes. A lot of the problems have been created because we've falsely increased the value of a lot of manual jobs, to the point that a lot of the manual jobs then no longer exist. And it all fits in together, because if there's more people working, you know, more households. I mean, I don't know what the number is at the minute. What's the stats on unemployment in the UK? But there's a lot of households where there's nobody earning any money, and people don't really talk about it. Unemployment level UK. I'll just want the number just to give me something to work for. Because it's all about self-worth. See, a lot of the traditional stuff, so what, I just wanted the number. So it says 4.4% from December to February. So 4.4% of the population currently doesn't work. But I'm unsure that figure doesn't seem right. I think it's much higher than that. But they fudge the numbers all the time because they'll take somebody that's on the unemployment and put them on these mini training courses like how to write a CV, and then they go, oh, yeah, he's no longer unemployed for 6 weeks, and there's thousands of people constantly fed into that grinder along with other stuff. But the point being is self-worth is one of the most important things that is often undervalued and not even talked about in many of these environments. The traditional life is something we have to work at to maintain. I mean, I do the sacrifices myself because my wife looks after the kids. My wife is in the house all the time, in the sense of she is a traditional housewife. At the same time, the sacrifices, I'm stuck here making money at the minute because, quite simply, I can make a lot more money. Sorry, my leg's going dead. I can make a lot more money in the UK than I can in Spain. So the reality is, I'm making the sacrifices by being away from home. And this is like when they're saying, when people are selling something, whatever, it's to get the numbers to work. So we've got to accept that society has changed, but there's nothing wrong with trying to keep things more traditional. A key to it is being happy with yourself, happy with the person you're with, happy with your relationships. And another important bit is realize a lot of the stuff you're being told is lots of garbage out there. And mine comes back to a fundamental, so that you don't go, well, Matt, what you're saying is garbage. Is, well, it can't be. Because mine's very simple. Get your information from multiple sources and make your own decisions. How hard can that be? I'm not saying I'm telling you what's right or wrong. In fact, I encourage you to actually do your own research. But my view is the traditional life is the best for the family unit. It's best for the kids for the long term. And I do think there's more to life than consumerism, cosmetic, manufactured, self-absorbing, self-orientation. That's just plastic. And the problem with it as well is it's like icing on the cake. It's very, very easy to crack. Because if you go down that route and keep reinforcing that's what you want to do, that's who you are, that's what you are, you're very easy to unpick, because a lot of stuff and standards you're setting yourself aren't real. Your expectations aren't real. This is why a lot of people are struggling with relationships, because when they're chasing something that's not there, and it's mainly women, and I say it's mainly women because you hear a lot of the guys are becoming disconnected from relationships because too much of a headache. They'll try and make out, oh, well, the guy's ugly, this, that. It's like, so why would he approach anybody if that's your attitude? Why would he even bother? And that's the reality. A lot of people have just given up. And it's not a good environment to be in. It's not the be end and end all. It's why we've got declining population. It's why declining Western population. The society has allowed itself to destroy what is important for false economy, for false globalism, for false greed, for the Well, it's got to be just for corporate. It's got to be for globalists. Because even the Instagram sanitization of life through cosmetics. I mean, like I said, I buy vitamins now. I didn't used to. Through vitamins, through health, everything's sell, 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 sell. Very little is about enjoy life, do what matters, find somebody to settle down with that's worth the time. And one of the key things I'll always say is you never have to get married. Marriage, for me, is a contract because, quite simply, there's very few women I know as religious. So, from that perspective, they're not locking themselves in because they're not buying into what that contract is from a religious perspective, but you are from a financial perspective. So, don't get into it. Just don't get married. Cohabit. Then you can walk away. And I think that's the fairest way of doing it. Because it's more like the woman's going to want to get married than the guy. But my view in this modern world, no. Yeah, Matt, you're married though, aren't you? Yeah. That makes me a hypocrite. No, because my wife is actually religious. so, so the fact is, I don't know how she has her beliefs, and marriage is for life. That's why we're already married nearly 20 years. Thanks for watching.